What happens when you don't have a structure or framework for your decision process? An old advertising slogan said, "Things go better with Coke." Analogous to what the advertiser was implying, decisions tend to produce better outcomes, or at least less inefficiency and delay, if there is a well-thought-out structure and process underlying them. Obviously, we all make some decisions quickly and almost effortlessly, some of the time. For example, when standing in a cafeteria line over lunch, you may decide which sandwich you want with little or no thought. But there are other decisions, particularly where the stakes are higher and the downside larger, where a systematic process can be invaluable. We're not suggesting that people should be robotic in their decision-making, but having some simple framework or structure to rely upon can yield substantial benefits. What happens when we don't have a framework for these larger or thornier decisions? Well, decision makers often yield to coping behaviors. For example, simply refusing to make a decision, which in many cases, as we know, actually constitutes making a decision. Decision makers may also decide they need to gather more information, which, while sometimes an excellent idea, can simply lead to more and more delay without shedding light on which path one ought to follow. We all know situations where firms have engaged in elaborate market research efforts, only to find that while they were collecting more and more information, their competitor successfully beat them to market. And perhaps you know someone like a colleague of mine who, before he was willing to make an offer on a house he really wanted, requested series after series of home inspections, appraisals, and other kinds of reports. Unfortunately, ultimately, the seller of the home sold it to another buyer. He just wasn't convinced that my colleague was serious about making an offer. Another way people may react when no framework for decision-making is in place is the opposite of delay, or what might be commonly thought of as a shoot-from-the-hip approach. Because having to make a tough decision can produce anxiety, sometimes decision makers impulsively come to a conclusion without gathering important information, simply to get out of the situation as quickly as possible. We all can think of examples of both individuals and companies who, in lieu of following a framework or well-thought-out process, did one or more of these. Sometimes things work out fine, but there are many more situations where a bit of structure could have improved both the process and the outcome substantially. Just as athletes with great natural talent can still often benefit from coaching, excellent decision makers even can benefit from having a structure or framework at their disposal.